Good morning, Hope. The psalm for today is Psalm 10. And I forgot to mention yesterday, Psalm 9 and Psalm 10, often sometimes in ancient Hebrew manuscripts, as well as in the Greek translation of the Old Testament, the Septuagint, Psalm 9 and Psalm 10 are actually one psalm. But in most modern day translations, they are separated. And so we are looking at Psalm 10, which quite possibly could be the second part of Psalm 9, and if it is, then David would also be the psalmist. Otherwise, it's an unknown author of Psalm 10. Psalm 10 could be divided up into two parts. The first part, verse 1 through 11, speak about the contempt that the wicked have for God, what can be termed as a practical atheism. They believe that there is a God, but they also think that God just doesn't care. God's going to turn a blind eye to the wickedness. And then verses 12 through 18 speak to the petition that the psalmist puts before God and the trust that the psalmist has in God, despite these wicked people thinking that God is ignorant or just simply ignoring what they are doing. So Psalm 10, verse 1. Why, O Lord, do you stand far away? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? In arrogance, the wicked hotly pursue the poor. Let them be caught in the schemes that they have devised. For the wicked boasts of the desires of his soul, and the one greedy for gain curses and renounces the Lord. In the pride of his face, the wicked does not seek him. All his thoughts are, there is no God. His ways prosper at all times. Your judgments are on high, out of his sight. As for all his foes, he puffs at them. He says in his heart, I shall not be moved. Throughout all generations, I shall not meet adversity. His mouth is filled with cursing and deceit and oppression. Under his tongue are mischief and iniquity. He sits in ambush in the villages. In hiding places, he murders the innocents. His eyes stealthily watch for the helpless. He lurks in ambush like a lion in his thicket. He lurks that he may seize the poor. He seizes the poor when he draws them into his net. The helpless are crushed, sink down, and fall by his might. He says in his heart, God has forgotten. He has hidden his face. He will never see it. So that is the first part. That, as before, it speaks to the contempt that the wicked have of God. It speaks of the injustices that exist in the world that the psalmist is seeing. Perhaps many of these injustices you yourself have seen or experienced, and you wonder, where is God? How is God allowing the wicked to prosper? They are boastful in their actions. They seem to be getting away with it. But let's read on and see what else the psalmist says about this. In verse 12, he starts out with, Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up your hand. Forget not the afflicted. Why does the wicked renounce God and say in his heart, you will not call to account? But you do see, for you note mischief and vexation, that you may take it into your hands. To you the helpless commits himself. You have been the helper of the fatherless. Break the arm of the wicked and evildoer. Call his wickedness to account till you find none. The Lord is keen forever and ever. The nations perish from his land. O Lord, you hear the desire of the afflicted. You will strengthen their heart. You will incline your ear to do justice to the fatherless and the oppressed, so that man who is of the earth may strike terror no more. So clearly in this last part of the psalm, the psalmist is praising God, thanking God, and acknowledging that God does help the oppressed. He does help the fatherless, the orphan. He does help those who, of which injustice is afflicted upon. And he will call to account, and that his patience, which is an extension of his kindness, should not be taken for granted, because he will not forget. He does not ignore the wicked, the evil that occurs in this world, in this life. He will hold them to account, and he will judge them, and he will judge them righteously. And because of that, we who believe in him, we can trust in him. And even though we see the wicked boast, we know that one day they will be called to account. God will remove them from his land forever and ever. That's Psalm 10. Pray that you have a good day, and Psalm 11 will come to you tomorrow.